Hey y'all, it's Sarah. I'm doing a little fall Halloween crafting today and thought I would check in with you guys and see if you wanted to tag along and do a little crafting with me. I'm going to show you some things I'm going to be using and give you some options too. So let me jump straight in because I'm kind of excited to get these pieces done. The first thing I'm going to show you is the paint colors I'm going to be using. Waverly Wax in Antique, Waverly Wax in Clear, and then Waverly Chalk Paint and Pumpkin. I am going to be using a few other Dollar Tree items and then a few things that are not Dollar Tree items. So I'm going to be using this little pumpkin, and I'm just using this guy as a kind of stencil type scenario. I have other uses for it later, so I'm making myself a foam core pumpkin out of this guy, very similar to the pallet pumpkins, and I've kind of tacked a little bit of the Dollar Tree putty to the back of it to help it keep from sliding on me. I just wanted to point that out really quick. The couple other things I'm going to be using, and this is kind of personal choice here, but I'm going to be using some Dollar Tree raffia, some Dollar Tree black and white gingham ribbon, and one of the Dollar Tree wooden block stem things. I used one of the skinny ones. Things that are not Dollar Tree. Some of you guys have said that lettering is a struggle. You don't have an electronic cutting machine, that kind of thing. So I wanted to bring some options. Of course, you can use Dollar Tree stickers. They have stickers, rub-ons, all kinds of fun things. But I wanted to show you the things that I'm going to be showing and playing with. One is, these are all from Target's Dollar Spot, and they were all $1 a piece. So really equivalent to Dollar Tree stuff. They have this Happy Halloween. I wanted to show it. I'm not actually going to be using this one, but I did think it was kind of fun and it could be used for this. It has kind of a velvety, velour, furry texture to it. The next thing is this 3-pack of wooden Happy Halloween shapes here, and it was $1 for all 3 of those. And then this cute little guy is a wooden jack-o'-lantern face. You can see it's just the face. I'm definitely going to be using this one. And a couple other things that I'm going to be using, or that I have used already, is there is a video on the Peppermint Cactus Facebook group exclusive to walking through and using and all of these things with these kind of new toys here that I've got. These are not necessary for this craft, but I did want to show them really quick because I'm using the results of these tools, but you don't have to have them, and I'll show you an alternative. So the first one is this V-groove cutter, and I'm using a piece of scrap that I kind of got my groove on with and practiced with, and it was not the greatest scrap, but I still wanted to use it. And the other little tool that I'm going to be using is this Freestyle Cutter. Both of these I got at Hobby Lobby. You can find the V-groove tool, you can find it on Amazon. This one I could not find on Amazon. This one is $10 cheaper at Hobby Lobby than it was on Amazon. However, you cannot use a coupon on it at Hobby Lobby because it is their like daily low price, or I'm not really sure how she explained that, but I couldn't use a coupon on them, but it was cheaper to do Hobby Lobby than it was to do Amazon. So let me go ahead and jump into getting started. If you do not have one of these V-groove tools, if you check out the pallet pumpkin video, you'll be able to do the very same thing. Just go ahead and make your pumpkin frame. We're just going to do it a different color, and I'm going to do mine a different direction. Actually, no, I'm going to go up and down, but my little slats are smaller. I think these are spaced at like 2 inches apart. And you can see this is what this V-groove cutter does. This is a piece that I did not get exactly great, but I'm going to try to go ahead and use it. I'm going to use just a scrap piece of board. Some of you guys struggle using the cutting mats and things to cut on. The reason that is because your blade wants to drag on these, even when you're using just a straight blade. This particular pumpkin, I used a straight blade to trim out. I do a better job if I do it on a piece of foam core or on a piece of cardboard. I'm just going to use this scrap because my cardboard that I like to use is too large for my desk. So I'm going to use this scrap to do it on. But part of the reason that we have that struggle is with the self-cutting blade, it wants to, or the self-healing mat, it wants to kind of heal as you're going, and it creates a little bit of drag. And it does the same thing with like the Freestyle Cutter. Not that it can't be done, but it does create a little more drag. And if you're you know, if you're the type that gets tired putting that pressure on, the cardboard underneath really saves a lot of that hand pressure that you have to have. Okay, so less of the blabbering and jumping into the crafty part. I'm going to bring my little pumpkin in, and I'm going to try to find a spot on here that I can still use. Hopefully I have enough room on here. Let me kind of get my little putty here positioned where it wants to stick. And I'm just lining it up with my little spots here that are fairly decent. I may have a few problems like right here, but it's okay. I'm gonna roll with it. This is going to be a rustic look, so I'm not really aiming for perfection on this, so I'm okay using this scrap piece. If you're doing like individual strips, you're gonna do the same thing every step of the way. After we cut this out, you'll be doing the same thing. So I want to show you kind of how this little guy works. There is a 1/4 inch offset. By that I mean this blade comes over a 1/4 inch from the actual frame of this piece. So anything that you do is going to have a 1/4 inch border around it. If you're free cutting, that's not necessary. You're going to be able to follow the line however you do it. Since I'm going around this piece, there is a 1/4 inch all the way around. So my finished piece is going to actually be a 1/2 inch larger than what this little Dollar Tree version is. So I'm going to try to keep it lined up on here, and hopefully I don't get out of frame. It's a little difficult for me to see sometimes. I am going to line this edge up, poke that down in there. Whoops, girl. I got out of line there. I'm going to try to sand that out a little bit. We shall see. That is part of the reason why it is helpful to have the little putty under it to keep your piece from sliding. I still slid, and that was more my hand pressure doing that. And I promise this is not as awkward as it looks, but I normally would pull this much closer to me and be right above it, but I'm reaching out and it's making me kind of awkward at it. And I'm just going to keep moving it around and try to keep in frame, try to keep going. Okay, right here at these dents, I'm going to pop down here. Now, right up here, one of the things I want to point out is you can only go forward with this blade. The blade itself is actually angled forward. And when you look at it, you can see what I mean. You can't pull backwards very well because the sharpness of the blade, that is kind of the blunt side on this back part of it. So I'm not putting the stem on here because I wanted to use my little wood stem. I'm going to pop this out of the way. And you know what, I'm actually kind of glad that I struggled at the angle that I'm at to cut. it gave me some rough edges, and some of you guys have asked what to do about rough edges when you're cutting, not even with one of these cutters, but when you're cutting with a blade and that kind of thing, and this will let me show you how to clean that up. I am just freehanding now. There we go. So let me make sure I did not go all the way through on this spot where I had kind of my weird little accident. So not perfect cuts. Actually, I'm going to leave this black part here so that maybe you can see what I'm talking about not getting perfect cuts, or you get the jagged pieces or those kind of things. All you've got to do is come in with just a Dollar Tree sanding block, or especially in these smaller grooves, maybe a fingernail file. You want to go on the fine grit, and we're going to touch this up just barely. You don't want to pull towards you because you can lift your paper surface off. And you just want to do really, really gentle. I'm not really digging into this. I'm just lightly clearing a little of that jaggedness off. You can see where I kind of came a little off track over here. So that really cleaned that up quite a bit. If you can see against there, it really did help manage some of those poor cuts. And honestly, there are pros and cons to these little tools, and they're not that difficult, but like I said, I'm reaching over at a weird angle. If I was to pull this really close to me where I felt like I had more control, I probably would have gotten a much cleaner cut with that to begin with. And there we go. I feel like I'm pretty happy with that. He's cleaned up pretty good. I still have this little wonky spot right here, but I'm okay with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to paint this little fellow. And this is going to be layered on. And you could just go with a single color. I'm going to bring my colors in. I've already got them poured and ready. And like I said, this is the chalk paint and pumpkin. And then my two wax paints. This is the antique and this is the clear. And all I'm going to do is bring my little sponge. And I'm just using a kitchen sponge because I don't honestly... I'm not trying to apply this orange in a really wood grain look like we do when we want that really good wood grain look. So I'm not even using my bath sponge for this. I want a nice application that does kind of have a little bit of grain look to it. So using this little kitchen sponge is fine for this particular project. And I'm getting a little of that orange. Mixing it with my wax. That way it goes on kind of translucent, kind of like a stain. And I'm just going to slide this across here. And if you are doing like the really bright Halloween colors, this orange is great for you. But I will say that this pumpkin color is very, very bright. So if you notice, I'm not even getting full coverage. My brown's going to kind of show through in some of those spots, or my antique. It's going to kind of show through on some of those spots. I'm going to pull a little of this paint back, which means I want to try to take some of it off. I've got fairly heavy coverage there. I don't particularly need it to be that solid color of an orange because I am going to give it kind of this distress look. If you were going to just go with the bright orange, you could do full coloration on there. So this orange needs to dry fairly well to do the next step on painting it. You don't have to wait long. The foam core really kind of sucks the paint in, but you do want it to dry a little bit so that we're layering this rather than kind of blending those two wet paint colors together. So I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to do this one in just a moment. And I want to bring in, I've got one that I'm already at this stage with. And you can really see the color difference in those oranges, how bright this guy is. So I've got this one already ready. I'm going to let this guy dry. I'm going to put my fan on it, and that's about all it needs. For those of you that paint and play with paint and you're used to using a heat gun to dry your projects, the foam core projects really are not one of the ones that you want to do that with. A fan works great, or just let it air dry. So I've already put my antique layer over this. As you can see, I really pushed it down into these little grooves, and it helped clean up because I did this out of scraps and the grooves were not good. There were some jagged pieces inside of them. It really just was not a really clean look on this sheet when I played with it with the groove tool. So this really helped kind of even out that look by going this route. All I have done at this point, as you can see, I went ahead and attached my little stem to the back. I made a couple of bows, and this was like a little wire piece that came off of a floral stem. All I did was take it and wrap it around a Sharpie. I cut it down a little bit and glued it to that also. And I'm going to come in with a couple things. So one of these pumpkins I'm just going to do the Happy Halloween on, like this, because I think that's pretty cute. And the other one I'm going to do my little jack-o'-lantern face on because I thought this guy was pretty cute. So these are stuck on here. And it says adhesive. However, I'm going to show you what happened here. It says these are adhesive letters. However, you can see most of my adhesive stayed on the backer here. So I'm going to have to actually glue mine down because there is barely any sticky left to this. Which is good. It allows me to really move this around and manipulate this around. And if you wanted to skip the whole foam core process, you can see that this little face fits really cute on the Dollar Tree pumpkin itself. You can skip the whole foam core process and jump straight to that. There's probably somebody that's already done that at this point. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of things before I start crafting. So I don't really know. If you want to check and see if there's something like that that'll walk you through painting the wooden one and making something, there's probably somebody that has done that by now already, I'm sure. So all of these pieces pretty much, just to show you this, and this may just be the one I'm in. I'm in the South. It's hot here. It does weird things to adhesives and stuff like that. So all of my adhesive pretty much came off of these guys. And you can see just how adorable is that. So all I'm going to do is take my regular Dollar Tree hot glue, and I'm going to glue these guys down. This little fellow is so cute. So let me tweak him and adjust him a little bit. He's a little bit cute and maybe a little bit scary because I think his little teeth are supposed to look like little vampire teeth, but I still think it's pretty cute. My kids are old enough for scary Halloween, but I have one that is absolutely all about cutesy things. So I kind of get to do both. I get to do cutesy and I get to do scary. And the really cool thing about this is with these little 2-inch lines, because I had this one lined up pretty much down the center here, it gave me a way to really get my alignment there. Super cute. That is super cute, guys. I think that is super cute. You may not think that's super cute. I think it's super cute. Okay, so I feel like this one's pretty dry. we're going to hope for the best. Because that one got me excited. I want to finish them both. All I'm going to do is come in with my antique. And I am going to try to hit down these strips first. I don't want to put too much antique on this and get it too heavily painted. So I'm going to try to get those strips and then blend out whatever is left over, if that makes any sense. So you can see I'm kind of digging that right down into those little grooves we've got going on, those little panel grooves there. And you can see how nicely they're popping out. And it does. It hides a lot of the flaws down in there where the foam gets jagged inside of that groove. Get a little more down in this crack. Alright, so I'm going to wipe the rest of that off and go ahead and do my edges here. I went with brown on my edges rather than the orange because I felt like it kind of made it lean a little more towards the edges being wood. You could do that either which way. And you could do these any color other than orange. I will tell you, lighter colors tend to lose their effect by doing this. When you layer the first one and then you layer the antique, you're going to lose a little. The lighter it is, the more the antique just masks the color that's underneath it. So be aware of that. This bright works really, really well. I'm going to come in. Gotten fingerprints on here again. I didn't put my little finger guards on. It definitely shows. Same thing for this one, this layer. If you want to go darker, as you can see that mine is quite a bit darker here. And I may not do that. I may make it so that they're within the same color range, but not exactly the same color. You're going to let this layer of the antique dry. And you're going to come back over it again with another layer. And you'll do that until you get your desired shade of whatever orange you're wanting. And while that is kind of drying on me, let me fill this little spot in. Maybe it'll hide or at least improve that a little bit. Maybe my bows will cover it. This goes back to me saying I don't like to waste anything. Even if I've made a mistake, I still try to work with that, you know. See what I can turn that mistake into. So there we go. That's enough coverage for me. And while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put the stem and everything else on. You can decorate it as much as you want to. If you have seen some of the other videos where I do these things and I turn them into signs that have little kickstands on them, I'm not even going to do that with these guys. That way I can lean them pretty much anywhere I want to. So I'm just going to come in, kind of gauge where I want my little stem to go. And I'm not going to put too much pressure because I don't want to mess up my paint on the other side there. Tap that in place. I don't have any more of the little scrap of stem off of my little florals. I don't have any more of those to make my little curly Q, so this little fella's not going to have a curly Q. That really was a scrap of something, of one of those stems. I'm going down the side, adding a little more glue. I am a heavy glue user. I still am going to go back and touch this up. I don't want to put enough pressure to paint on this yet. Let's just pop my bow open. I have a bow hack for you guys for bigger bows. On the smaller bows, when I do a smaller bow, honestly, I just tie it like I would tie my shoe. I don't get really fancy with it. I'm just going to tie it like I would tie my shoe and kind of pop that together. And I don't even really need that much raffia. I do have a little cheat though on these. Usually I stick a Sharpie right here on these two, on the loops, and pull it really tight so that I can steadily pull on that center. And I've shown that in my bows. I've got one that already whipped together. Uh-oh. I went ahead and put it together, popped it in place, and that's, you know, honestly, if you are a Dollar Tree crafter, I save all the little bows, the raffia bows that I popped off of some of their signs and things like that. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I absolutely will save those, and I've got like a little bag that I stick them in so that I can just grab them later if I'm looking at something and want to decide if it wants to have a bow or something. I can just set those on there and look to see if it's going to work or not work. So what I meant about a quick little cheat on this right here, I'm just going to take two little Sharpies. You could do it with a pencil, whatever you have handy that kind of has that shape. If I can get it in there. There we go. So I hold the bottom two, pull the top two. You can get this thing as tight as you really want it. It makes it really easy if you want to make a tiny, tiny bow. I know those can be a struggle. You can see you pull it down. You're not going to be able to pull it out from itself. And just grab it and pull it as tight as you want to pull it. As large, as small. It just really helps me kind of keep my little loops even. It gets that knot really, really tight. It's not a necessary thing, but for those of you that have some bow struggle, that might help you out. As a scrapbooker, I always use really tiny bows on my pages, and that helped me get the little tiny bows. So I just went ahead and cut that ribbon off. If you notice, I used a slightly different ribbon, and this one, I believe, is also Dollar Tree. They had them at different times of the year, but I thought that they would look cute together having slightly different. So I'm not gluing these down because obviously I want to come in and add another layer of my antique on when it dries. But I wanted to show you really quick how this guy is going to be finished out. I think my little bow loops could be just a hair bigger. I've got enough length on my little part down here, and more than likely I will just tack it down right here so that it hides my little cut issue. You could paint this out any color you want to. I kind of want to leave it this slightly stained wood color. You can see they stained it a little bit. Black would pop on here really well if you wanted to paint it with like a silver spray paint so it looks like metal. That could work out for you. If you wanted to paint it white so it popped on there, any of those things I really think could work for you. I've got a couple options here on ways to dress this up if that is your vibe. I kind of like to dress things up as much as I can. So I wanted to try, I have some scrapbooking brads. I love these things, and I love them with foam core because they pop right in. And then you can lock them on the back. And if you're doing something with multiple layers, you don't even have to worry about it poking through the back. So I wanted to see if they would fit in these little holes so I could tell you guys whether or not they would fit in these little holes if you have some on hand. They will. You have to make sure that you line them up very evenly. The other option is, I've showed you these before. These are carpet tacks from Walmart. And I love these things. And let me tell you why. Not that you probably really care, but I'm going to tell you why anyway. Look at how those are made. My hands are really painty. I'm sorry, but let me see if you can see that. Can you see how those are made? They look like old-timey hand hammered nails, which I don't know. I find that really cute. and I think they make a fun detail. Even the heads of them are all slightly different, like a truly hand hammered little piece. So those are a really good fit. The only issue with that is that at the end, when it pokes through, you want to take some wire cutters and pop that off. Usually when I use them, I've done multiple layers of foam core and I don't have to worry about them popping through. On this one, it would pop through since it's a single layer. These are small enough, you should be able to come in with wire cutters and just pop the edge off. Cover it with a little hot glue so you got nothing sharp getting your fingers, and you're good to go. So I wanted to share those couple of options. Let me show you the finish guy again. And you'll see that I'll have a cute little set when this guy is dry and I can go in and finish painting him out like this one and attach my little piece down, and you'll see it when I have my finished photo. But I don't want this to get too long, and there you go. These are going to be super cute as far as I'm concerned. You may not like them, but maybe they'll give you some ideas for something you might like to do. And I wanted to share that Target Dollar Spot was a really good place to find some pieces to go on the front of yours without needing a Cricut machine or some kind of cutting machine. You know, I typically don't spend a lot of time at Target. However, these are a fun option, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on them. I got several different styles, and you'll be seeing those on other crafts. And I still can make 2 more crafts with the rest of what's out of this package. So, there you go. I'm pretty happy with my little country rustic Halloween jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkins. And maybe it'll give you an idea of a little something something to play with. And these are a pretty good size. They're not super large, and even with the little stem on it, it's still really, really lightweight. You can see just, it's such a light piece to put pretty much anywhere. You could do a smaller version for your tier trays, which would probably be pretty stinking cute. Or you could put one of the bigger ones on the top tier of a tier tray, and it's not so heavy that you have to worry about it falling, tilting. It would be very easy to prop up and keep upwards in a tier tray or something like that. So keep that in mind if you're looking for cute things to dress up those tier trays that we all kind of had to have. And I think that's it. I'm gonna wait for my my antique to dry, and it's still a little tacky because I went really quickly over that orange that was also still a little less than perfectly dry. But I will post a picture of both of them completed and side by side, and I hope you like it. If I don't talk to you again today, I hope you get a chance to do a little crafting and get a little creative. I'll talk to you guys soon.